Hi, I'm John and welcome back to my Lair of Action Figures. Today we're going to be having a look at another G.I. Joe classified series figures. This is of course Law and Order. Now this figure came out in 2025, so if you watch, I just got these in, so I wanted to do a video about these so I can sort them out, tidy them up and go forward, and then afterwards I will be catching up. So of course, when we look at the figure, this is the boxes that I really like, with the blister system where you can see everything you get in it. As you can see, this is a deluxe figure, so that means the price suggests retail price is €44.99 in the US and €54.99 in Europe. Of course, this is a general release, so you can find them a bit anywhere in the US. This one came from Amazon because it was faster than waiting for Pulse to get them. So yeah, that's quickly changed my order due to the fact that I'm not very happy about Pulse and decided that I'm going to be giving my money elsewhere than Pulse if I can get them in. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing, and going to be picking the exclusive from now on from Pulse because not really good. I'll be also picking double order the ones for Walmart, or because with Walmart it's a bit on and off. I did get a notification that my figures did ship out the Beachhead and the Quick Kick, so contrarily to Crystal Ball that I'm waiting for Hasbro Pulse to give. Anyway, let's get back into this figure over here. So as you can see, this is number 157 in the G.I. Joe line. Of course, we always have this classic look of the boxes over here on the side, and always there's some kind of interesting teasers over here. So it looks like there's a Beachhead over there with his beret. So I don't know if this is an announcement for the Tiger Force or the Beachhead who was in the Night Force, but when I'm looking at him with a bit, looks like some skin over there, so that makes me believe that it could be a Tiger Force version of it for coming up, and that means maybe a Target exclusive. So as you can see, there's some interesting items put out around. It looks like Order is, of course, bomb sniffing dog, because you can see over here there's some explosive. It's always really interesting when they do these little pictures to complete the boxes over here. So now that we have talked about the box and a bit what's on it, let's dive into the history of this guy. So let's talk history over here. So of course I've put the original figure that came out in 1987, and over here there is the version of the 30th anniversary and also from the cartoon Renegade, and this one came out in 2011. Now there's another version of him that I did not purchase, do not ask me why, and I was living in Canada and in Quebec, and those days were a bit harder and was pretty annoying, and that figure came out in 2016 and is a kind of it's based on this one with the colors of this one over here. So let's have a closer look at this figure, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about on this figure over here. So as you can see, the figure, the dog comes with a lead with the Uzi, who's also given with our friend from the classified series, the baton. And over here he has his MP white helmet. Of course, if you look at the head sculpt, and if you know a bit G.I. Joe, you will know that this is the head sculpt is from a former employee of Hasbro, who is very important. You want to know more about him, you can go and check out the Toys Who Made Us on Netflix. You can go and check it out, and the name of the person is Kurt Bozzigain. So he is a very important contributor to the G.I. Joe and did a lot of stuff for it. Now, as you can see, there's more of a brown hair look of it. You will see that the face and the hair colors do not match this one. So maybe if we come out with the retro line, we might be getting that figure with it. It would be a nice gesture on the part of Hasbro for somebody who contributed so much to the line. So of course I'm going to be putting it over here, so you can put a pause if you want to read the file card. The name is also the same. It's Lavine Christopher. So he's from Texas. If you relook at the one from the 30th anniversary, As you can see, there's also a lot of gear coming with it. This is something that I really liked with the 25th, 30th, and 50th or 40th anniversary figures, that they came with a lot of stuff. So we can see that they kind of inspired themselves from this figure over here and did a bit of a mix match with it, especially for the dog over here. So as you can see, this is, like I said, from the cartoon Renegade, but I do not remember seeing this episode. Like I said, I did watch it. I found it interesting. It was something a bit like the A-Team, you know, with Hannibal, Barracuda, Looping. I can't remember all the names of the different characters, but it did have a bit of an Army of Fortune look, and they were always going and doing missions. Sadly, the cartoon didn't work that well and kind of disappeared, and it was a bit of a shame, because that could have been pretty cool if some new kids would have grown up with that cartoon, loved the cartoon, and then joined the collector people for this line. Of course, I wanted to show you something over here. Of course, we can have a look at the dog over here. You can see they put it with the lead on, and as you can see, the back of the German Shepherd goes down. Now this is kind of respected on the line. Now this is exactly how the German Shepherd should look if you want to take a pure breed, but a lot of the people who are breeding them have decided and were pushed because of the fact that the back is going down like this. It gives this aesthetic. The problem is the dogs kind of have to be put asleep because of the arthrosis and also dysplasia that they will have over here on the hips. So yeah, that's a huge issue with the dog, of course. So that's something who's more of the real life. Of course, you can look at the neck, the other proportions, because I think that the one that Hasbro did, normally they do a good job with it, is kind of not as good as this one. Anyway, let's stop talking about history and let's dive into the box itself, and I will show you everything that it comes with. So, of course, we have the figure over here, we have the German Shepherd over here, we have its collar. I removed it because I didn't think it was very interesting and I wanted to muck around a bit with it. We have the helmet over here. It's the same as for Mutt, but this time we have bare hands over here with a nice little add-on over here. So we have all the different hands, but not glove versions. We have the mask with the goggles for the dog. We have an extra pair of handcuffs. Well, we only have one pair of handcuffs, but we're going to be looking at that close afterwards. Then we have his baton, we have his pistol, we have a knife, we have an extra portrait for the dog. So that's the original portrait who's on the figure. I decided to change it because I was mucking around with it. And of course we have the Uzi. So some of these weapons have been already done, so there's not much new. I think the handcuffs look a lot like the ones that we got with Chuckles. So yeah, there's certain reuse of accessories. So as I was saying, we're going to be taking a closer look at the head sculpt. As you can see, does not have much of a look like the character from the 1987, and he's a bit redhead looking. So yeah, that's something who's a bit surprising. And like I said, I guess we might have it in the retro line that we will be getting maybe the different head sculpt on the figure. So that would be pretty nice. So of course we can look, there's a lot of gear. Of course the radio does pop out over here, who's a nice little feature and pops in pretty easily. Contrarily to what is his name, Grunt, with his the machine on his chest over there. Everything pops in pretty nicely. Of course, you can see the rest of the figure pretty well detailed, if we can say it like that. There's some extra pouches. There's a pouch for the Uzi over here. As we can see, there's some equipment. You have a pair of molded in handcuffs. You have a light over here. I would have liked that the light would be able to pop out. I think this is something that could have been done in the 25th, in the classified series. If they managed to do so much difference with the 30th or 25th anniversary line, they should be also able to do it. This is the extra compartment for the extra handcuff over here. Something that Matt didn't have was for the baton to put in over there. So yeah, this is something pretty interesting. Now, of course, over here, the watch over here, is it? Yeah, it seems to be, no, this doesn't seem to be molded in, but over here we have a molded brace, outlet on this side over here. So I'm going to be gearing up this figure, and we're going to be having a look at it. Of course, this does come down over here. This is something I'm a bit surprised. I would have preferred that they would have molded in, because this could be something that comes off pretty easily, and you could lose this little badge over here. So yeah, this is something I don't understand why they didn't put it directly and just left it on the armband and not having it being removable. So of course, let's gear him up. As you can see, there's a lot of cool features on this figure, because he does have a lot of pouches to put all his rifle, his Uzi, the pistol, the baton. So yeah, this is pretty interesting what they did with it. So now let's talk a bit about, do I believe this is a collectible item or not? Now, the figure itself is pretty popular. It should be out. There's not been any special prices who have been announced for this figure. So I don't think it's going to be a figure that's going to be going up. And again, depending on what we get in the retro line, this is always something. When you have a deluxe figure, there's high chances that you're not going to get as much gear with the figure itself. So this is why I'm thinking that it might be not such a high valued collectible. I know that the figure is highly appreciated. Also, when I was talking about some of the anecdotes about this figure, he appeared in G.I. Joe's number 61, if I'm not mistaken, and the comic is pretty interesting because it's penciled by Todd McFarlane, so gives a bit of an interesting vibe to know that Todd McFarlane was behind one of the G.I. Joe comics. It's the only one I think he penciled for the whole one of the 134 volumes or 149, can't remember exactly, but the whole Marvel one he only penciled it once. Now I wanted to talk about the dog himself over here. As you can see, the dog over here does have the way it looks, he looks way too bulky. The neck is too large from my point of view, from what I remember with the German Shepherd. And even if I look my dogs that I have, who are mixed with German Shepherd or White Swiss Shepherd, don't have such a pronounced neck over here. The back goes down. What would have been nice on this figure would be to get these little extra pouches to be put in on it. It's nice that you can do it. You can pick up the ones from the Action Soldier that they did for the 60th anniversary that you can put some pouches on. But I would have liked to see these pouches being put on over here. So of course, the reason why I decided to change it's because I wanted to put on his goggles. Now I must say that the look with the goggles is pretty cool, so let's put it on. As you can see, he looks pretty nice and with this kind of sticking the tongue out. I tried to put it on the other one and it's a bit harder to do due to the fact that the head sculpt is of course of a more aggressive looking way of the dog, and I guess it could be possible. You'll have to try to force it in, but the ears are pretty separate. It's possible. Yeah, you can do it, but I would not recommend doing that very often. And afterwards, I don't think they would use it. This is more to have the dog a bit more quieter in a position when they're moving around and having him on an aggressive look. Anyway, from what I've seen of different documentaries about dogs who are trained in the military. So I'm going to be removing this over here. So as you can see, head sculpt looks pretty neat. Again, Hasbro is pretty good with the animals. It has mostly the same positions that you can give with all the dogs that they did, that it can be mud, it can be timber over here. You can really put him in these kinds of really nice way of attacking positions. So of course I would be having to change the head. When I'm going to give it a spin around, I'm going to put him down like this with his paws, his back legs up straight and his back up, and having him pose like this makes him look very aggressive and pretty bulky on this side. I'm going to have a look at the color over here. As you can see, pretty simple color. And I wanted to go back to the Uzi because I didn't really show this one off over here. Nice to get some extra colors on the gun. Of course, the mag doesn't come out, and of course we're going to be looking at the extra hands, because as you can see, there's a fist hand, there's a pointing finger hand over here, there's different symbols on the hand gestures over here. For left and right, you have a saluting hand. I would have liked to have a bit more of a different saluting head, and you have again a pointing hand over here, pointing finger. Something I find is missing on these figures over here is that you only have one fist. I would have liked to see both fists on the figure. It's not like Hasbro does not have both fists for both left and right, so I don't understand why they didn't give it. Now, another little feature that I find is a bit of a shame, it is that we have a knife, but we have no place to put the knife. Now, I could be mistaken, or I may not be seeing that properly, and I looked on the pictures. I sadly did not see at all a place to put the knife on the figure. So that's something who's a bit of a shame, and I would have really appreciated that they would have done that extra little touch for the figure. So, as you can see, a pretty neat figure. So, I'm going to give this figure a little spin, and I'm going to give you my final thoughts and my note out of 10 on this figure. Now, while this guy is going to be going for a little spin, I'm going to be telling you what are my final thoughts and my note out of 10 for this figure. Now, my note out of 10 is going to be 8.5 about this figure. Don't get me wrong, I do like this figure a lot, and I think that Hasbro did a pretty good job on the figure itself. But the big problem is there's a lot of missing parts, I believe, that should be included. Again, this is a problem that we already got with Mutt. If you remember, Mutt had also a missing leash, and I think the leash is something that should have been given by Hasbro with this dog also. I like the idea, I like the fact that they re-equipped the figure, made him look more into a more modern version than the one we had in the original line, because yes, of course, 1987 2025 is something of interesting and different equipment. So of course it is nice to see certain items. Would I have liked to see also, like I said, the pace for the knife? This is something I don't understand. It's not like Hasbro does not have them. There's with what's his name, Outback has one on his leg, on the bottom of his boot. So I mean, you could have done that pretty easily with no problem at all. So this is something, I think it's a bit of a shame in 2025 that you cannot give this little extra. The fact that we only have one fist and not a double pair of fists seems a bit weird also. You could have thrown it in there. It's not like you don't have any extra fists. So yeah, this is why I'm giving him a bit of a lower note. I'm even going to bring it down to 8. I think it's more fair towards the figure. Of course, I could take off an extra point for being biased, because you know I'm a huge G.I. Joe fan, but I don't think it's really worth it on this figure. I think I was pretty objective on the figure itself, and do think that it's a bit of a shame. So of course you can see I did put the knife over there, but that does not really make sense to put it over there. They could have put this little part on it, and by doing that, that would have been a lot better than what Hasbro did for it. So yeah, this is why I really think that it's a bit disappointing that they forget it, and that's why I'm giving this figure a 8 out of 10. So that's it for my review of Law and Order from the G.I. Joe Classified series. If you like this kind of reviews, please leave a like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. It does help out a lot for the algorithm. Like I said, share it a lot. This also helps. And let's start a conversation. Tell me if I'm right. Do you think I'm right, fair on the way that I did my review on this figure, so we can create a kind of a cool environment and a way of talking about our passion. Also, if you want, I'll be taking some extra pictures I will be posting to Instagram and Facebook, more Facebook than Instagram. As you know, I'm not a big fan of the interface for Instagram, so not posting much stuff over there. be also putting up my G.I. Joe classifieds that I have for sale, because I decided to make a bit of an order and had some people who did not pick up some collectors over here in Switzerland that did not pick up the figures that I ordered for them. I should have taken a deposit. That's my bad. I'll be doing that in the future if somebody wants anything, but no, that's something that I should have been more careful about. But anyway, that's going to be it, and I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!